Is that the strength of this country and the will of the people? And I think not. I think that we could have sensible priorities, and I think about 2007 and 8 is we think back to that last election, and thinking that those of you tonight are going to go watch an interesting debate amongst 10 chosen people by our most favored broadcast network, Fox. I'm sure they're going to have people covering this event here tonight. That what are their priorities? What are they saying? What are they talking about? What are we talking about the future of this country? How do we have a discussion about what needs to happen, and should the American people, all of us and everybody else who's worried about the future for not only ourselves but our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids, and for the Native Americans thinking 7 generations out.
Sorry about that. I had a momentary signal loss.
Every dollar that we spend, we had to look at it just sort of like those Native Americans and say, how does this positively affect that 7th generation? I would think that we would reprioritize our spending and our thoughts as we think about it. I will tell you that this year, as we think about world leaders arguing over nuclear weapons and what ought to happen, and I will tell you that this year at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I put forth a resolution about the 10th one I have personally done that looks for nuclear test ban treaties and essentially taking down all of our nuclear weapons. This world doesn't need 15,000 nuclear warheads. And it's those nuclear weapons intimidate the world. They intimidate the people. They certainly intimidate a lot of the world leaders. And that has to stop. We have to think about what that means. And I will just close by telling you that a number of years ago, as we were thinking about greening the planet and climate change and CO2 in the atmosphere, and we had a lot of speakers down on Nowlin Plaza, which is now Coles Commons, and we were thinking about all those things, and I was sitting next to Dr. James Hansen, and he certainly is an advocate for a greener world, a green planet, and all the efforts that we all need to make to do it. And I was listening to some of the other speakers and knowing very little about it, but enough to be somewhat dangerous. I turned to him and I said, Doctor, how does nuclear war or the possibility of a nuclear exchange affect this discussion? In the midst of it, he turned kind of an ashen gray. And he said, this can't happen. He said, we don't have to deliver nuclear warheads across the world anymore. Just set them off anywhere. Set off 15. That's about all it would take. Because the size of the nuclear warhead compared to the one that was set off over Hiroshima and Nagasaki is 10, 100 times more powerful. And he said, you just have an exchange of 15 of those, even if it's between Iran and Saudi Arabia or anybody else. They don't even have to deliver them. He says, all they have to do is set them off. He says, we will be plunged into a nuclear winter across this planet, with the possible exception of Australia, and half the population of this planet will be gone within 18 months. We will not be able to raise food. We'll have to exist on what we already have, because the sun won't be able to penetrate the clouds to make it happen. As we think about the future of this planet, we think about the future of our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids and all the generations beyond. If we are going to have a future of this planet, we have to have nuclear test bans, and we have to take down the nuclear arsenal around this world. Thank you all.
After hearing from Des Moines Mayor, now in tradition these past few years, listening to an excerpt of a statement that's made every year on this date from the Mayor of Hiroshima, this year on the 70th anniversary. I'll read a part of it now. As long as nuclear weapons exist, anyone could become a hibakusha. That's an atomic bomb victim, at any time. If that happens, the damage will reach indiscriminately beyond national borders. People of the world, please listen carefully to the words of the hibakusha and profoundly accepting the spirit of Hiroshima. Contemplate the nuclear problem as your own. A woman who was there at age 16 at the time appeals this: expanding ever wider the circle of harmony that includes your family, friends, and neighbors links directly to world peace. Empathy, kindness, solidarity, these are not just intellectual concepts. We have to feel them in our bones. A man who was 12 at the time emphasizes, war means tragedy for adults and children alike. Empathy, caring, loving others and oneself, this is where peace comes from. These heart-rending messages, forged in a cauldron of suffering and sorrow, transcend hatred and rejection. Their spirit is generosity and love for humanity. Their focus is the future of humankind. Human beings transcend differences of nationality, race, religion, and language to live out our one-time only lives on the planet we share. To coexist, we must abolish the absolute evil and ultimate inhumanity that is nuclear weapons. Now is the time to start taking action. Young people are already starting petition drives, posting messages, organizing marches, and launching a variety of efforts. Let's all work together to build an enormous groundswell. In this milestone 70th year, the average hibakusha is now over 80 years old. The city of Hiroshima will work even harder to preserve the facts of the bombing, disseminate them to the world, and convey them to coming generations. At the same time, as president of Mayors for Peace, now with more than 6,700 member cities, Hiroshima will act with determination, doing everything in our power to accelerate the international trend toward negotiations for a nuclear weapons convention and abolition of nuclear weapons by 2020. Offering our heartfelt prayers for the peaceful response of the atomic bomb victims, we express as well our gratitude to the hibakusha and all our predecessors who worked so hard throughout their lives to rebuild Hiroshima and abolish nuclear weapons. Finally, we appeal to the people of the world. Renew your determination. Let us work together with all our might for the abolition of nuclear weapons and the realization of lasting world peace. We go back now to the story of the bell, which in tradition is read by someone, and this year, once again, it is Jan Burns of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. After hearing the story of the bell, we'll also hear about the history of this observance from Sherry Hutchison and Maggie Rowland, also of WILF.
Good evening, all. What a beautiful evening, aren't we lucky? Not on? Is this okay? Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
It's good.
Not too loud, is it? Okay. Such a wonderful evening, and it's so hard to hear all the heavy stories. Not stories, I shouldn't say story, it sounds like it's made up, but unfortunately, this was real. But this is a lighter look at when between Japan and us, Des Moines, when the bell was given to us, and I'm going to read what's on the bell, which I discovered after many years of coming here for these wonderful remembrances that we're having. I happened to look up at the bell. I was on the other side of it and realized it was all in English. I could not believe it. So I came down the next 3 days to get help with translating, putting the English on there. And this is what is on the bell. If you can look up and see it, it's kind of heartwarming. It's Japanese on one side, and it's English on the other side. So it's kind of nice to know that. And this is what it says. The prefecture of Yamanashi suffered heavy damage from typhoons in 1959, with great loss of human life, farm animals and crops, homes and fertile farm lands. At that time, the people of Iowa, expressing their traditional humanity and profound friendship, donated to us all the way across the Pacific purebred breeding hogs and feed corn in order to encourage our people of Yamanashi to recover from the unprecedented typhoon disaster. This program expedited mutual understanding and friendship between our two states so sincerely and promptly that a sister state relationship, the first such affiliation between the United States of America and Japan, was subsequently established between Iowa and Yamanashi by the joint consent of both peoples, which is such a wonderful thing to know, I think. In commemoration of this, I, on behalf of the people of Yamanashi, hereby present a time-honored Japanese temple bell, big emphasis on temple because that really means a lot. A temple bell together with its accompanying mysteries and prayers. May this bell forever symbolize the bond of unfailing friendship between Iowa and Yamanashi, and may its sound deepen the spiritual context of both our peoples, thereby contributing to eternal peace and goodwill between the United States of America and Japan. Signed, Hisashi Amano, Governor of Yamanashi Prefecture in Japan, December 25th, 1961. I just wanted to make one personal comment. I've never before heard until this year, I think I've heard on the radio or television at least 7 or 8 mentions about the 70-year anniversary of the dropping of the bomb. It seems like it must have just happened because I've never heard it mentioned before on the radio, or it's getting good publicity, even though it's awful, but important to keep it in everybody's mind and heart, and hope we can all do something about it. So thank you.
This is a brief history of Hiroshima and Nagasaki annual observance. The idea to have an observance on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was started at a Women's International League for Peace and Freedom in the late 1970s. For the first couple of years, our members observed the time as a group, but later we invited Iowa Peace Network and the Consortium of International Peace and Reconciliation Shipyards to work with us. More on that later. Before we settled on meeting at the Japanese Bell regularly each year, we held our observance in various places around Des Moines, such as Greenwood Park, Evelyn Cheatham Park, Plaza, and often on the west steps of the Capitol when there was a bridge across. One year we met on the east steps, not a very auspicious setting, which we never repeated. Often when we met park locations, we did origami folding of cranes and spoke of their significance. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Dan Clark, a half-time staff of IPN and SIPAR, did outreach with various denominations of churches, inviting them to participate. During that time, there was considerable attendance from the clergy. At a high point, Bishop Morris Dingman participated, and during his presentation on a rainy evening, someone, probably Suzanne Peterson, held an umbrella over his head as he spoke. After that rainy session,
After that rainy session with Bishop Dingman, we decided to designate a rain site and have used various churches in the Capitol area, including Capitol Heights Lutheran Church, Calvary Baptist Church, and Wesley United Methodist Church. Our brochure for the August 1990 observance shows that we had statements from Jewish, Buddhist, Muslim, and Sikh faith communities. After several years of our annual observance at the Japanese Bell, our tall member, Jan Burns, and we just heard from her, investigated some printing she noticed high up on the side of the bell, which turned out to be an interesting history of how Des Moines happened to receive the bell from Japan. Her reading of the history is a welcome addition to our program each year. As the attendance and interest grew in the early years, we had other organizations join us on the planning committee for the observance, and most recently, Catholic Peace Ministry, American Friends Service Committee, and the Des Moines Area Religious Council. Co-sponsors are also welcomed each year, and we're grateful for the financial support from them. As we conclude this history and come to this present time, we find that we must now not only acknowledge the need to prevent the annihilation of our planet by nuclear and hydrogen bombs, but we must also acknowledge the danger to the life of our Earth by man-made climate change. And I want to end by saying thank you to all of you for coming, for the new ones that are here this evening, for all of you familiar faces and people that have come year after year. The significance is always there. Thank you very much.
And now we will sing This Is My Song.
Again, the lyrics to the song are on the back of your programs. This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's sky skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover, leaf, and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
We have with us this evening David Korodhari, who is Director of the Environmental Science and Policy Program at Drake University. He teaches a number of courses and has led seminars on economic development and environmental sustainability in places like Nicaragua, Guatemala, and Ecuador.
Thanks, and thanks for all of you for coming out on for this occasion. Today we remember two of the most devastating events in human history: the dropping of the atomic bombs that indiscriminately killed hundreds of thousands of people or more in two quick instants. In light of the devastation of the last century and our wars and ecological brinksmanship today, some of my friends and students argue that people are too destructive, that the world would be better off without us. Today, we may not be killing tens of thousands with a single bomb, but we're on track to destroy all the world's great coral reefs, to drown entire island nations, to submerge the land where tens to hundreds of millions of people now live, to dry and burn the rainforests, and to increase the drought and flooding across the globe. Our numbers have grown to the point where even living non-extravagant lifestyles, our ways cannot continue for even a few more generations without driving natural systems beyond their limits. But I'd like you to remember, we're not an aberration. We're the natural outcome of the evolutionary process. Every one of us is the product of a line of organisms billions of years old that never once lost the evolutionary struggle. Often this struggle was won by those who cooperated. But the dark underside of the balance of nature is that it works because organisms have more offspring than can survive. It works because there are losers. It's only oversimplifying a little to say that that competition is at the heart of what got us here, and not one of your ancestors lost in that game of competition, at least not before they reproduced. This competition is the cause of what we're memorializing today. Land and resource grabs based on the premise that what we don't have, we can take from others, clashes of societies that drove a compulsion to dominate foreign otherness. This competition is at the heart of today's ecological destruction as well. At the personal level, our desire to overcome to consume ever more beyond the level of need is driven, at least in part, by an instinct to demonstrate to ourselves and to others that we're successful, that we're valuable, that we have something others don't. At the societal level, how often have you heard that we can't cut our fossil fuels because then we'll be disadvantaged in our competition against China, or that we have to cut services for our most needy because otherwise we'll lose the economic competition against other states and countries? This is the same competition that drove past civilizations like Easter Island to ruin, but it's also the competition that brought all of us into being over these past few billions of years. When we think that the world will be better off without us, don't forget this, that chimps have been shown to engage in coordinated intentional warfare with the apparent goal of wiping out neighboring clans and family groups. Gangs of male dolphins prowl the seas and do terrible things to females and young that are powerless. Humans are not demons, though we do terrible things. We're a species in a very dangerous stage of our evolutionary development, where we build tools before we have the wisdom to wield them. If we fail to learn quickly enough, why do we imagine that the next to follow in our footsteps might be any better? They'll be rising out of the same evolutionary battle as we did. This gathering is evidence of what every one of you knows in your hearts. We have tools to counter our base instincts. We all hold a deep love for those around us and for creation. We're a species that acts on empathy and has worked over the millennia to build a thoughtful rationality. But love, empathy, and rationality are not our go-to modes of interactions when things get difficult. They have to be taught, as we don't naturally apply them to people that we don't know or who don't look, sound, or explain themselves like we do. They have to be nurtured by those who have learned them, through modeling them in our own lives and encouraging them in others. We have all the answers to overcoming our environmental and international challenges. We're on track to becoming the only species to voluntarily limit its own population and so potentially step out of the evolutionary cycle of resource limits. This change is not through, or that this controlling of the population is not through disease, parasites, starvation, or predators, but by choice. And that's a small example of that we need not be bound by evolutionary imperatives. The reason we're here today is because one of our jobs is to constantly remind ourselves of what happens when we don't do the work to train ourselves out of the violence and waste. We're here to mourn some of our most terrible errors and to remind ourselves that's where we come from. In some ways, that's who we are, but it doesn't have to be where we're going or who we're to become. Biology is not destiny, it's a starting place. Culture is our new destiny, the ideas we grab hold of, the words we say, the actions we take after debate, politics, and the exercise of power. But culture is us. Culture is what we all build. A culture of compassion is how we move beyond the ugliness of the past. It doesn't always feel like it, but we need to remind ourselves that we are the best hope of this planet. Our mission has to be to grow through this frightening but incredible stage of evolution. Martin Luther King famously said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. That's true if and only if we keep making it so.
So my name is Sean Brumhorst, and I was part of a group called Students Beyond War. It, however, is no longer very functional, although I will be working on putting together a festival that we threw many times called Funk War here in the coming years as I gain time. This song is called Landlocked Blues, and it is not only about the wars between nuclear battles and between nations, but the wars with ourselves, which is something that we need to watch out for, especially when we come towards each other and talk about peace. If you're not listening to the person you're talking to, you can't continue that discourse correctly. If you walk away, I'll walk away. Just tell me which road you will take. I don't want to risk our paths crossing someday. So you walk that way, I'll walk this way. And the future hangs over our heads, and it moves with each current event, till it falls all around like a cold, steady rain. Just stay in if you're looking this way. Moon's laying low in the sky, forcing everything metal to shine. And the sidewalk holds diamonds like a jewelry store case. They argue, walk this way, no, walk this way. And Laura's asleep in my bed. As I'm leaving, she wakes up and says, I dreamed you were carried away on the crest of a wave. Baby, don't go away, come here. And there's kids playing guns in the street, and one's pointing his tree branch at me. So I put my hands up, I said enough is enough. If you walk away, I'll walk away. And he shot me dead. I found a liquid cure for my landlocked blues. I just wanna make a clean escape. I'm leaving, but I don't know how soon. This world's got me dizzy again. You'd think after 22 years I'd be used to the spin. And it only feels worse when I stay in one place. So I'm always pacing around or walking away. And I keep balancing history books up on my head. And I keep balancing history books up on my head. But it all boils down to one quotable phrase. If you love something, give it away. A good woman will pick you apart. A box full of suggestions for your possible heart. And you may be offended, and you may be afraid. But don't walk away, don't walk away. We made love on the living room floor, with the noise in the background of a televised war. And in that deafening pleasure, I thought I heard someone say, if we walk away, they walk away. But greed is a bottomless pit, and our freedom's a joke, we're just taking a piss. And the whole world must watch the sad comic display. If you're still free, start running away. 'Cause we're coming for you. Da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. I've grown tired of holding this pose. Feel more like a stranger each time I come home. So I'm making a deal with the devils of fame, saying let me walk away, please. You'll be free, child, once you have died from the shackles of language, immeasurable time. And then we can trade places, play musical grades. Till then, walk away, walk away, walk away, walk away. I found a liquid cure for my landlocked blues. I just wanna make a clean escape. I'm leaving, but I don't know where to. I know I'm leaving, but I don't know where to. Thanks for making it out tonight, and please give a big round of applause for Erica McCroskey for helping put this together.
Thank Thank you, Sean, and everyone for their participation this evening. Before we end, we'd like to hear a few words about what's happening presently around the world and given some context in why we're here this evening. And so that for that, we go to Jeffrey J. Wise, Peace Education Director at Catholic Peace Ministry.
Okay, real quickly before we ring the bell, I have some good news and some bad news. So I'll start out with the bad news first. One of the things we say at Catholic Peace Ministry is we want to someday convert the United States to a civilian economy rather than a permanent war economy. As you know, the United States has a permanent war economy, in particular since World War II. I also quickly wanted to say, we also remember tonight 40 to 60 million people died in World War II, 20 million from the Soviet Union. Some of us have relatives and others. I have an uncle who suffered shell shock during that war, and I've watched that war destroy entire generations to this day. So, we also keep that in mind within some context. We also remember, as Mayor County talked about a $600 billion Pentagon budget, unfortunately, the Obama administration, with their allies in Congress, and this is something they tend to all agree on, unfortunately, through the Department of Defense and Department of Energy, have allocated $986 billion for a future modernization of our nuclear weapons program to especially create better and more efficient delivery systems. So over the period of several years, there's nearly $1 trillion that is projected in spending for nuclear weapons. Now, on a positive front, after saying that, for years, CPM and a number of organizations here have been interested in the question of Iran. Iran, for many years, tried to seek diplomatic relations with the United States after September 11 because of their opposition to the Taliban in Afghanistan. And Iranians, the Persians, were very surprised when all of a sudden they were included on a Axis of Evil list. Towards the end of the Bush administration, we were concerned and started an organization, Iowans to Prevent the Bombing of Iran. There is some evidence moving forward that it's possible the Joint Chiefs of Staff may have held off the Vice President's office in particular from that happening towards the end of the Bush administration. And we then changed our name to Iowans for Diplomacy with Iran. At this very gathering, for the last 3 or 4 years, at least 2 of those years, many of you signed petitions that we sent to President Obama asking him for diplomacy with Iran. Well, we now have a nuclear deal. The 5 permanent members of the Security Council have signed on. The agencies of the United Nations moving forward. At the same time, I recall the day after this agreement was signed, we heard from the Islamic State and their opposition. They call it the Safavid Crusader Alliance Treaty. We heard from the State of Israel. We heard from the theocracy in Saudi Arabia. And we heard from the Republican Party. And so there are many voices together in unison opposed to this particular treaty. But the entire world, with a few exceptions, some of which I just named, are wanting to annihilate this treaty. So the battle within the next 45 to 60 days will be in Congress. 60 votes to pass a resolution, but after the veto from President Obama, 67 votes will be required, in particular in the Senate, for the 2/3 to override the veto. So I just ask all of you to write letters, put your name on our action alert. We're going to ask people to contact our 2 senators in Iowa and also to go into their offices on this particular issue. A senator from Indiana and Colorado are swing votes. They're very important. So if you know people in those states, try to lobby them and move forward on this so that come what may, this deal with Iran stays. Last thing I will say, we also were always cognizant of Resolution 687, which said we need a nuclear weapons-free Middle East. Well, Israel has nuclear weapons, India has nuclear weapons, Pakistan has nuclear weapons, also North Korea and the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. There's your club of 9. So we need to continue to work so that we have a world without nuclear weapons. Thank you.
Sorry, for some reason I'm not able to type in my chat, so again, I apologize.
I'll read the closing this evening, and then we will join together in our closing song, followed by the ringing of the bell and laying of the flowers, which will be led by Daishin, and then we can follow as you are able. This closing is actually taken from the end of an international meeting of the 2015 World Conference Against H bombs. The essential factor that promotes and maintains the global progress toward achieving the elimination of nuclear weapons is the movement of the peoples around the world and the support of public opinion. Let us increase our efforts to make known the damage by the A-bombs and build momentum demanding the start of negotiations for a treaty for the prohibition of nuclear weapons. Exhibitions on the A-bomb damage everywhere in the world and signature campaigns that connect each individual citizen to the worldwide movement will serve as its mainstays. The International Day for the Total Elimination of Nuclear Weapons, Disarmament Weeks, and other UN-related occasions should be made good opportunities to develop joint actions. Let us continue to extend our support and solidarity with the bombing victims, whose average age has now reached 80, and help them to win their demand for state compensation. We must inherit from the bombing victims their memories of experiences and struggles. Let us strengthen our relief and solidarity with the nuclear victims, including those of nuclear tests and nuclear power plant accidents. Let us strengthen our support to the victims of the Fukushima nuclear power plant accident and develop solidarity with the movements for zero nuclear power plants. Let us support the victims of Agent Orange, depleted uranium, and other war atrocities. We will work in solidarity with the people who stand up against war, for peace, for the solution of poverty and social inequality, for the reduction of military expenditures, for people's livelihood, jobs, and social welfare, for freedom and democracy, for climate change prevention and protection of global environment, for overcoming sexual and all other types of discrimination, and against social injustice. Together, let us move forward to achieve a nuclear, weapons-free, peaceful, and just world. We'll end with our song.
Please feel free to stand during this last song if you're able. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as our Father, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
I'm moving closer to the bell platform where people are laying their flowers. I'm just going to go over here to the other side and get a view from this side. The lighting is actually a little bit better. It's kind of hard to see in the dark, but it's a horizontal pole hung on 2 ropes or chains, and then you pull it back away, and then you let it go or push it towards the bell, and that's how it struck. As people have walked away from the bell after they placed their flowers in what they're doing, they're just engaging in conversation, signing of petitions, they're just talking to people. When I go home, I'll go through the pictures that I shot and decide which ones are the best ones, and then I'll just upload them to my Facebook page. Putting my tablet away since I'm done shooting the pictures. It's going to shorten my stick. So I actually had it in my purse stuck against my Pepsi bottle to keep it stable. People are collecting their chairs. That's one thing I didn't think I was bringing a chair to sit on, but that's okay. I stood the whole time. I'm just going to roll around.
I finally got out of a lot of the... Probably you are too. I get stuff from all over the country.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Candidates want my money to run in Pennsylvania or something. Hello.
And the next one that may be doing it is Biden. There's some noise that he might jump in.
Yeah. You're right.
So we'll have to see what he decides to do, how he decides to do it, when he does.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a long shot, but all the Republicans are now picking on Biden. So it's like,
when they're done frying Trump, they'll still pick on Hillary. They'll still try to fry her.
Yeah.
Well, they'll try to fry all of the Democrats.
What's this badge? Freelance. Oh, you're a member of the press.
Yep. I work for my viewers.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm live streaming.
Oh, okay.
I got started doing it with Occupy. And then I decided, I'm going to get myself a badge. I've seen other live streamers get them, so I got one done.
Good. Judy, my wife, went to the
FLCIO.
They had their meeting today with the candidates out at Prairie Meadows, and so Judy saw it in the paper and went out there, and they said, if you don't have an invitation, you can't get in. But all these press people were in there, and she went, well, I was thinking of joining the press, she said.
Well, I got this on eBay, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The guy asked me what I want on it. So said, freelance, I work for my viewers, so since I'm a live streamer, just put videographer on there. So that's what came out.
Good.
And it actually has gotten me in a couple of times to places.
Maybe I'll see you on Sunday at David's. You going to be at David's?
Good to see you.
Yeah. Oh, pretty good. I had a feeling you'd show up. I was hoping you would.
Good. Wonderful.
You know, my memory is so bad. As goodness said, to use things, I cheat everything. It's programmed.
Yeah, you don't have too many of those left, but that's okay. No, you can go ahead and give them to someone else who...
Did you get one? You probably already have that. You already have that? Oh, all right.
Well, she does now.
What about you? Maybe you didn't get a copy.
No, I'm live streaming, so, but I will...
Sure. All right.
This has original child bomb, and it shows a child with a nuclear explosion in the background. And just another version of that. It's a little 2-page thing about... Hello!
Did you get a good video?
Yeah, I'm still live, by the way.
Oh, okay. I'll let you shoot without me interfering.
No, that's okay. Jane Major, who just came up to me, she was the oldest occupier who put a tent in the park. And she was 78 at the time. Now she's well in her 80s. She's been a long-time nuclear activist, peace activist.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. And she has been also active against the School of the Americas, which is a secretive, I'd like to call it a terrorist training camp for foreign soldiers to come and learn how to oppress their own peoples. So South American military and police have trained there, and then they've used those tactics that they learned at the School of the Americas on their own people back in their own countries. And so she and others have protested down there, and I know others who have protested down there. Someone might belong to that.
Nice seeing you, kiddo. You take care.
I've known Jane Major for, she was the oldest occupier to put her tent in a park. When we occupied Des Moines back in October 2011. After we got kicked off the Capitol grounds, and we went up there to Stewart Square. And she was 78 at the time. And she put a tent in the park. But she's been an anti-nuke activist, peace activist for many, many years. She's gone down to the School of the Americas.
Did you get one of the flyers, Thomas Merton? Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she's good people.
Yes.
Someone else just decided to ring the bell. Yeah, these Japanese temple bells are very, very resonant. As you can probably tell, even against all the background noise. Although I don't have perfect pitch, I mean, it sounds like it's very, very well tuned.
Did you find it? Okay. Jeffrey, thank you for. Are you
Hey,
taking
thank
that
you
back
for
tomorrow
coming.
then?
Yeah, I'm gonna run back. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll run it back.
And I go to Cyber Day. Not right now, but in the spring. I just keep these two things.
Well, you still have some flowers in your hand.
You want one?
No, that's okay. Kaylin?
Who is it?
Kaylin.
And Lucy Krause.
Yep. Last time you checked, anyway.
It is. Oh, it's getting dark. So you got some good pictures. Is that what you
I took pictures on my tablet, but I use this to live stream. So it's live video.
Okay. I thought you were taking pictures.
Yep, I was doing that too.
Yes, yes.
So when I get home, I'll select the best ones and upload them to Facebook, on my Facebook page.
Way to do it. Yes.
I think this is going to do it for me. I'm going to wander my way on out of here. And but before I shut down, I will let you know that my next stream will be on the 13th. It will be at the Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement office, where people against the Packin Pipeline will be there to meet with the Iowa Utilities Board to try to get them to put the squash on it before it gets started, despite the fact that there are already piles of pipes scattered around the state in some of the targeted counties. And try to remind them that the Packin Pipeline is not a public utility, that it is a private, for-profit means of exploiting the state and its farmland, and it would put the environment at risk. So if we can put a stop to it, then all that effort that we've done organizing people, organizing to get farmers to stand up to these big polluters, and to remind them that it is not a utility, that it is a private for-profit scheme to take land from farmers, take it out of production, interrupt water flow, especially when it comes to the major aquifers of the state that will be crossed, and the fact that it will also go underneath rivers, and if the pipe breaks underneath the river, it will well up and basically screw that river and anything that is downstream. So that's what we're going to try to do on the 13th. So I will bring you that meeting live, and then on the 19th there will be a sidewalk chalking event that I will also be broadcasting. So I'll bring that to you live as well. And I'm on the hunt for other things to stream. So look for other things to come, and do check out my donation sites. GoFundMe.com/OccupyRKlyn. That's KAYLYNN. Again, www.gofundme.com/OccupyRKlyn. Or if you cannot access GoFundMe, or you don't have any of the currencies that it supports, please go to www.paypal.com, and in the send money to line, enter the email address strainSOP@AOL.com. Again, www.paypal.com, and in the send money to line, enter the email address strainSOP@AOL.com. That will help me cover the cost of my live streaming and broadcasting, so I can pretty good, so I can continue to bring you these events live and unedited and uncut, unless I have a signal loss, so I have to change devices or change battery. So I don't edit these videos. I leave them raw. I throw them up on YouTube later, so that they're archived, since I don't pay to store on the Ustream server. So I get home, I'll throw this up onto YouTube for future viewing. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the stream.